Hello and welcome to the, I believe, the 6th episode of Lorekeepers. I'm Darth Sebius, and unfortunately Brett is not joining us today as he's defending the honour of a lady in Bad Neighbourhood Forest. But we do have Fox with us. How are you doing, Fox?
I'm doing great. It's been a while since I've been on a show, so I need my fix, man.
Indeed, well, it's great to have you and me. We've got some epic, fantastic things to be talking about. So yeah, anything you want to say before we kind of get cracking, or...?
I just want to say fantasy is superior to 40k. Let's do this.
There are going to be, warning, there may be some strong and divided opinions coming up, but we shall see. So here we go. We've got a map of the old world here, of the Warhammer world. So essentially, giving you a bit of an intro, Warhammer was created in 1983, originally intended as something to do with excess Dungeons and Dragons models, which is something that kind of blew my mind a little bit. The backstory goes back 10,000 years before the current present day, and that's where the old ones come in. Now, old ones are an interesting point. It really depends on how close to 40k or not, or how you look at it, because the old ones are sort of like the Catan or Citan from 40k. Conspiracy theories abound.
I'm trying so hard not to say anything. I'm like, can we just skip the old ones part? Because we can come back and I can go on about how this is all connected.
Oh, well, we can come back to the old ones at the end if you like. But I'll give a quick overview of the old ones.
Yeah, quick thing of the old ones, and I'll just sit here with this.
So the old ones essentially are a race of spacefaring dudes who essentially created and messed around with the people of the Warhammer world and experimented with the races. So yeah, we'll leave it at that for the time being.
Conspiracy theories. I'm hearing so many conspiracy theories that the old ones could also be marked as the Eldar. Okay, go on.
Okay, would they have created them? Oh, okay, whoa, with conspiracy theories, we can conspiracy theorize another day. But the important thing to remember is, and Games Workshop have come out and said this, like, we are going to argue some points, but there is no canon, really. There is a canon, there are events, but the way they're seemed and the way they're perceived are all very different. So, yeah. So let's get going. So here's the old world. Let's look a bit more specifically there. We've got the world map. So, the old world, which is unnamed to its inhabitants, it's at its heart. It has the.
If we can go back to the, I'm sorry. If we can go back to the old map, I just want to point out something that kind of people overlook when they look at Warhammer Fantasy. Mm-hmm. What does the old world look like to you, or what does the world look like to you?
It looks very much like the world.
Yeah, it looks a lot like our world when you look at it. I mean, America's a bit messed up, but I mean, America, Canada, and South America are all kind of there. Like, Africa looks like Africa.
Yep.
I just want to point out that how similar the worlds look. This might go into conspiracy later. I'm not saying anything.
No, that's cool. Well, that actually leads very well into what's saying. Looking at this bit here, is essentially the analogue of Europe in the real world. So yeah. So you've got the humans, you've got the Empire, the Bretonians, the Kislevs, the Norskas, the Tiskers, and the Estalia. You've got the remnants of the Dwarven Empire under the mountains, and you've got the scattered wood elves of Athel Loren. So we've got the forest of Loren there, where the wood elves are living. Hopefully doing an episode specifically on wood elves at some point with our own blood elf Jamie, which should be fun. And then moving on past that, we get to going south. You get the rogue border princes, the Orc Badlands, and then the trackless deserts of the Nekara. My pronunciation is awful. How are we saying this, Rob? The land of the dead. Nekara.
Nagaroth?
Nekara, okay. Alright, cool. Which is essentially the land of the dead. And beyond that, you get to Araby and cults.
Well, technically, isn't it called Kermi?
Kermi. Yes.
Miss had a laugh there.
Oh dear. So yes, the land of the dead and Muppets, essentially. Ancient Egyptian puppets is yeah. And then beyond that is Araby, where you have the cults and unknown magic. Essentially the Shadowlands beyond Ashai. because we like to refer things to other things all the time. And then that goes down into the dark jungle with the sun mad orcs and the remaining parts of the Old One cities. Anything you want to come in before I move off east a little bit? Like, I am doing quite a quick overview, like, essentially. We'll get into...
Honestly, I could rant a lot, but then again, my Tomb King's lore is quite rusty, so...
okay, fair enough.
I'm not gonna jump the gun here. My camera is very off. Could go to a slide while I change my camera.
Okie dokie. So then we're going to move out east. And out east you have the Darklands, where the Chaos Dwarfs work, and the land is blighted by volcanoes and their epic clouds of industry. Then we keep going, and you get to the Ogre Kingdoms, the Mountains of Morn. Oh, sorry, do you want to come in on the Darklands there?
No, I just felt like doing the Song of Isengard from Lord of the Rings. It just felt appropriate. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, Ogre Kingdoms are pretty cool. I hope that they're an army. I've always been interested in, never played, but I've seen plenty of people play them. Beautiful armies, pretty interesting. They're pretty much a very what's the word I'm looking for? They're a very mercenary bunch. They mostly like, I feel like they're like the ultimate. I think that we're all a little bit of ogres, because people are like, hey, we want you to do this, and you're like, no, and then they're like, they're like, well, we got free food, and you're like, all right, all right, guys, they're gonna give us like 20 pounds of chicken nuggets. Let's go fight some wars.
So essentially, ogres are giant dogs of war in a way, then, with their mercenary type stuff.
Yep. Some ogres fight in clans, but is it clans the proper word? I'll say clans. But you know, there's no price that an ogre, you know, ogres will do anything for some food and coin usually. So in a good fight, of course.
Fair enough. Toffee P is just saying they eat because they're sad, and they're sad because they eat. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah. They worship a god of gluttony, which we were talking about, but who knows, maybe that could be a thing of Slanesh, you know, gluttony. But they're fat, so they gotta be Nurgle worshippers.
Excess has its many forms, as does all things.
Pizza's an effigy of Nurgle. It's like, no. Stop existing.
So then we move out into the middle of the sea, and we got your chaps, the High Elves in Ulthian, and the not so nice chaps. They've splintered off Dark Elves off in Nagaroth, off to the west, and then as we come south, we come to Lustria, where the lizard men are living. The slaves of the old ones, carrying on, just bumbling around, trying to keep it pretty old and pretty one, as they do.
Yep. I would like to say I actually do believe that the lizard men are the ultimate good guy race in fantasy. Like, they're not really dicks. They just kind of hang out on their temples.
Like, I don't know a huge amount about the lizard men, but they kind of have a bit of a wood elf sort of policy, don't they? Just as long as you don't come in the jungle, you're kind of alright.
Right. Again, you know, with the new books, and I definitely think their lore is going to change a bit to make them more active and stuff like that. You know, Tomb King, as I said, that Cetra's trying to rebuild the old empire. You know, maybe the lizard men are going to be doing a bit more. I guess kind of like what the High Elves do when they're doing Team America World Police. Like, oh, something bad's happening, and we should just let it happen, but no, let's get involved, because we know better.
Well, this is the thing with the fantasy and the 40k, both universes, they kind of exist in this odd sort of stagnancy, so it's nice to have things change a bit and get people more involved, and get the old reclusive lizard men, get them out and fighting people would always be a bit more fun. So that's Lustria, and then we have the poles, and we have the northern wastes, which are always fun. So essentially, at the poles there were warp gates. If you take it this way, the old ones had warp gates at either end of the planet to help them travel, or to just generally keep the chaos and the warp out of the old world, or the world as it is.
Right.
And they collapsed, essentially, bringing loads of chaos into the world.
Yeah. One thing I should also mention. One of the key differences between Fantasy and 40k is just how chaos works. Because in 40k, it's kind of like chaos picks and corrupts. You know, the gods kind of are a bit more. What's the word? They use a bit more intrigue to get their worshippers. Meanwhile, in Fantasy, with the Northern tribes, chaos is a way of life. You know, some tribes, when you're born, you're worshipping corn. You know, when you slip out of between out of your mom's legs, kind of thing. It's a way of life. These people live and breathe chaos, and then the chaos reward these people for their worship. Compared to, oh, these guys are space marines. Oh, this guy is a captain. Let's give him like bone arms. I don't know.
Yeah, no. Essentially, I mean, we're going to talk a bit about the coming of chaos a bit later, and why the whole chaos thing is a bit more rampant and a bit more whimsical, because it just affects things a bit more. And just popping back to Lustria and the Lizardmen, Toffee P's just saying in chat room a lot of mention of relic hunting in White Dwarf. People going into the Lustrian jungles to try and steal the old ones' things. So yeah, that's kind of where the battles have come forth, really, isn't it? People bumbling into their world.
Yeah, definitely. Someone, people like the Empire definitely would. Definitely, I could see the Dark Elves doing that a lot, because the Dark Elves are very seafaring, because they have to get over the Ulthuan, so chances are they're like, instead of going straight, what happens if we go slightly to the right? Evil plan.
I know the worst thing that you can do on the internet is to compare people to Hitler, but the Dark Elves just seem to have Hitler's kind of war strategy. They just want to have too many fronts. It's a big enough job fighting the High Elves. Just focus on that. Don't try and mess with other people. Pick your battles, I think.
Well, in the end, their ultimate goal is to put Malekith. Their ultimate goal is to put Malekith on the throne in Ulthuan. The Dark Elves, they want to go back home. They said, this is the one true king, and he's on the throne. Everything else they do is just kind of for stuff like that. And yeah, that was actually another thing I wanted to mention, Toffee P, because I wanted to bring up the good old days of Games Workshop when they did their last global campaign, which was a fantasy. It was called the Nemesis Crown. And essentially, the story was a dwarven runesmith named Alex the Mad made this crown, and basically it had all these insane powers to anyone who wore it. And essentially all the armies came together, and again, Lizardmen, that was one of their things, is they realized, oh shit, this thing is evil, we gotta destroy it. So the Lizardmen, brought a huge amount of dudes over, on their ships and stuff like that. Even the Tomb Kings were involved, everyone was involved, they wanted this crown. It was a good time, but yeah, I could definitely see them making Lizardmen a bit more of an aggressive army just to make sure that they're involved.
Yeah, rather than just sort of, as Sophie said, the general raiding for their relics across the world.
Again, same with Wood Elves. I think they're going to really rewrite their stuff to make them leave the forest. Maybe not necessarily leave the forest, but maybe leave Ethel Lauren to go to some other slightly treed areas and stuff like that, because in 40k you can do space travel and stuff like that, but Fantasy, they don't have the privilege of going through portals and stuff like that, so they're like, okay, so why are my Lizardmen fighting the Tomb Kings?
Yeah,
I don't know. Kind of a thing.
Yeah, well, that kind of makes sense. And also, like you mentioned, the Wood Elves. I'm excited to do a Wood Elves episode at some point, because one of the things I love about the Wood Elves is that there's that other forest, there's that other bunch of Wood Elves that aren't in Athel Lauren, that are there's the Lost Brothers, and I would love to see maybe an army book supplement. That would be interesting, going into them.
I don't think Fantasy is going to have supplements. Honestly, I think they've been releasing the heraldry books, which are phenomenal. Those are actually worth it. The $30 for basically just pure fluff to make your army as unique and as as actually close to how the people would form their armies, which is really nice. Compared to a whole other rules supplement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I again, maybe this is me being biased fantasy, but I think fantasy rules are just laid out a bit better than 40Ks that they don't need the supplements to play a specific group of people. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, totally.
That Toxic, if he watches this, is probably screaming like, "No, 40K is a flawless game. How dare you!"
Right, but this is Lorekeepers. We're fluffy people essentially. So like, should we move on with let's talk about the man, the myth, Sigmar himself. So I understand the imperial calendar is based around his coronation. So he was born minus 30 in the area which is where Reichland was, foretold by the coming of a twin-tailed comet, which is obviously became his symbol. At the age of 15, he drove off a goblin invasion and led an expedition against the goblins, rescuing the dwarven king Kurgan Ironbeard, who was so pleased he gave him. Could you please say it for me because I pronounced it poorly?
Is it Galmaraz?
Galmaraz, yes. And we have a few pictures of Galmaraz here. Now, cards on the table, and being completely honest, like, we've been doing Fluff Talk and Lorekeepers for a while now, and I've been interested in Warhammer for a long, long time, but I didn't realise that there was an eponymous Warhammer. I thought Warhammer was just called Warhammer. But this is the Warhammer of Warhammer that is Warhammer, essentially.
Yes. This is where it all started, and this is why, you know, fantasy will always, you know, it's the mark, because I mean they tried making, you know, Warhammer 40K, because on the cover, you know, it was like a thunder hammer for last edition, but it's just not the same. Like, all Terminators wield, you know, a thunder hammer, but there is only one Galmaraz. You know, this is literally a piece of history that created the greatest force of order and civilization for humanity. You know, it's everything. It's everything to the Empire, and it's wielded by every single emperor. Karl Franz has it, and he cracks many skulls with it.
Well, this is the thing. We'll after we've sort of skipped over Sigmar's life, this is something we can get into because there is some debate. But let's not start that debate just yet. So let's get back to good old Sigmar. Excuse me a moment. There we go. Right, so Sigmar. So he's got Galmaraz, and that's all exciting. Then he went off and set on a campaign of conquest and diplomacy to unite the tribes. He subjugated the belligerent Tutagens, or Tutagens, how are we saying? Tutagens, yeah, something like that. And they had a big battle near where Mindenheim is today. He actually, in fact, defeated their chieftain Arta. I have no idea who he could be based on. Arta. No idea. in single combat. Is there anything so far that you kind of want to jump into, or before we get to him actually as the Heldenhammer himself?
Well, how we obviously got to the part where he has Galmaraz now. Yeah. Something that I kind of just want, just kind of something I want to point out. That's possibly something that really isn't that shown, is the fact that the Dwarves really forged the Empire. So essentially, what happened is the High Elves and the Dwarves they had a war called War of the Beard. Now at this point, you know, High Elves go back off to the island, Dwarves go back to their homes, only to realize that a lot of them have been run over by Greenskins. This is the age of Greenskins. Like, these are the up-and-coming race. You know, there's so many of these dudes. And, you know, basically the Dwarves saw that there was this guy named Sigmar, and he was uniting it, and basically they came to this friendship that even, you know, lasts to, you know, current game of this friendship between Dwarves and humans, because, you know, the humans see all these dwarves with things like, you know, swords and axes, and they're like, oh wow, we should make those. The dwarves are like, hey, that's cool. You got men, we got metal. We'll teach you how to, you know, make swords, how to forge really nice weapons, and you'll help us out. So, and you know, eventually they would teach them to make cannons and use black powder and all that good stuff. But
okay, well, yeah, there's something I want to ask. Right, right. How, like, dwarves, they're kind of old and they're stubborn and they're serious and they're very, like, they've got the Book of Grudges and all that stuff. Like, how do the dwarves feel about being saved by a 15-year-old boy? Like, the king of the dwarves rescued by a 15-year-old.
I think normally if it was any other race, the thing is, dwarves and humans are so alike, and they're so friendly, because, you know, they couldn't go up to the elves and be like, oh yeah, let's knock back a beer and talk about, you know, let's talk about fighting. You know, they can't do that with the elves. You know, they're certainly not going to do that with the lizard men. They're certainly, you know, they're not going to do that with that. But, you know, the fact of the matter is they're both very similar. You know, the dwarves see the great potential in humans. You know, they see their flaws as well, but they see great potentials. And, you know, something you don't see in something like 40K, but, you know, you see it's a very common thing in most fantasy writings. You know, Lord of the Rings is the friendship between, you know, man and elves, the friendship between man and dwarves, and I think that's really the staple friendship. I don't think it's so much of the dwarves being like, oh, we got saved by, you know, a 15-year-old. It's saying, hey, you know, there's this race of people, and they're, you know, they're actually friendly, they're going to help us, and, you know, they've sacrificed a lot to help us. You know, it's not like dwarf lives have been lost. Humans have been losing their lives for the dwarven cause as well. Because I believe when, you know, Sigmar, you know, marched a bunch of dudes up, and that was Blackfire Pass, right?
Oh yeah, we're going to get to Blackfire Pass in just a moment. So yeah. So like we're saying they're the old friends, and because they're just so much similarities. Dwarves in many ways are almost just a caricature of people to a certain extent. Obviously, they have their own things as well. So yeah, so carrying on with Sigmar, he so after defeating Arthur in single combat, he set about a campaign of purging. Jesus Christ, Sigmar, I should say.
Sigmar.
Of purging and liberations. He basically war against the Beastmen and the Chaos Warriors. He defeated Morak's Norse Chaos Invasion, and he had the huge campaign against the Greenskins, culminating in the Battle of Blackfire Pass in -1 Imperial calendar, which really kind of epically solidified that pact with the dwarves, because as you said, the goblins and the dwarves were having issues, and people got involved, right. And dwarves and people worked together. Good times.
Yeah, and they're still friends to this day. And I would be incredibly surprised if the new edition of Fantasy, which is rumored for 2015, didn't include allies. And if they do include allies, I would be appalled if dwarves and Empire weren't battle brothers. I would be absolutely appalled.
Fair play. Yeah, it would be something definitely something interesting to see. So after Blackfire Pass, he was crowned the Heldenhammer, and we have a lovely picture of him looking all regal, and from the Heldenhammer series there, holding Galmaraz. And so yeah, he was crowned Emperor in Reichdorf, which is where Altdorf is now. Set up the Elector Courts for the 12 tribal leaders, and then in the 9th year of the Imperial calendar, a Norse rebellion led by a demon prince was fought with another alliance of humans and dwarves. Good times. Defeated with the aid of the first Runefang, Blood-and-Banner, or Bloodbane. So Runefang, what's a Runefang? Because this is something it definitely intrigued me.
See, there's two ways you can look at it. One is it's a weapon. It's a very powerful weapon. It's the finest weapon the Empire has next to Galmaraz. It also is a sign of political power. The Elector Counts, they all have their Runefangs, and basically when a new Empire needs to be elected, because even though it is an Empire, it's a democratic Empire, kind of, because you got your, 12 Elector Counts, and when they all go to a meeting, they all put their Runefangs on the table, you know, to say, hey, I'm in charge, and then they all elect who their next leader is going to be. So, Karl Franz also has a Runefang. He can take the balance of Galmaraz, but why you would do that, I don't know.
But of course, Runefang is a weapon. It is like a hammer itself, then.
No, a Runefang is a sword.
It's a sword. Okay, cool. That's right. That's what I wanted to sort of clear up.
Yep, it's actually a weapon you can take, I believe, for 100 points in the Empire book if you want to either make your person's Elector count, or sometimes if in a dire need of a fight where an Elector count can't be in a battle, he'll lend the Runefang to a general of the Empire and just say, hey, don't lose this.
Okay. Awesome scene. So Sigmar's fighting against the Demon Prince, and the first Runefang is used to kind of break the Demon Prince's magical aura armor type stuff that's going on. And then, yeah, he defeats them. But while this is all going on, they get attacked by Skaven as well, which is epic amounts of fun. And during this time, Garen sneaks up and kills his brother and his lover, which is always nice, and then runs off back to the north, leading to a year-long revenge crusade. So, is there anything about the sort of his epic crusading up north? Because, like, that's not a place you want to go. Like, that's a bad man if he really wants to take it.
Yeah, I forget if it was the last 2 Chaos books ago or if it was some other book, but you know, essentially it gives you kind of like a almost like if Vincent Price was doing a documentary on the North. It's a place you don't want to go, and stuff like that. But also, it should be interesting to mention that some of the northern tribes actually are friendly to the Empire, or some of the southern tribes are friendly to the Empire. But no, definitely a place you don't want to go. No. But not a whole lot to talk about.
Alright, it radiates out, isn't it? So the further south you go, the further far you are from the taint of chaos, unless it's particularly waxing. So yeah.
Right, because eventually there's just if you somehow manage to make it, it's just like a wall of just stuff. It's the best. It's just the best way to describe.
It's just a little bit of writing comes up and says, "You've reached the edge of the map. Turn round." Just refuses to load anymore.
Pretty much. It's like when you fall through the earth in a video game, kind of like that.
Awesome scene.
So, like, well, I can't really restart, so might as well kill myself.
So after his year-long crusade up north, he had a lot of fun with Nagash, who wanted to nick his crown. And the 3 tribes that just owns the Burgundians and the Menogoths were all but wiped out. But hey, good old time, Sigmar is Sigmar, and he defeated Nagash at the gates of Altdorf and destroyed him for the time being, which is good times. And then we get to 50 years into his reign, he decided to depart. He put down his crown and headed east. Now this is where accounts get conflicting and it gets a little bit wishy-washy and wobbly. I'm sure we'll have some opinions in a moment.
This is when he... Okay, so I'm going to finish it for you. And this is when Sigmar became the Lost Primarch.
Exactly. He's Vulcan.
Why are you laughing?
Oh dear. So yeah, he went off. He left his Warhammer and went off to, apparently, or he didn't leave his Warhammer. This is where it gets interesting. He either left his Warhammer and they still have the Warhammer and the Warhammer is the Warhammer, or he took it with him and they're pretending. The conspiracy theories abound.
I don't know, because there's also some stuff with what happened to Volten. As well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have my own theory on that, but we'll get to that probably in episode 2.
Okay, cool. So his legacy, basically he disappeared past the World's End Mountains to become, as you said, the Lost Primarch, and never seen again, possibly, or maybe seen again. So the cult of Sigmar grew, and basically they're a religion based around him, but their prayers are answered by something. So they suppose it must be Sigmar and he must be a god. Despite him never claiming to be a god, he's the emperor. Essentially, he is just the emperor of mankind. I'm not a god.
I'm sorry, you mean the emperor of mankind is Sigmar?
Yes, the emperor of mankind is Sigmar. Whichever way you like to put it. But
that's a conspiracy on its own, isn't it? What if the emperor of mankind is Sigmar?
Well, all of this has happened before, and all of this happened again. My own personal thing, I think 40k and fantasy just go round and round. Lots of Etch-a-Sketch End of the Worlds.
That's my favorite one, the Battlestar Galactica theory.
Yeah. Yeah, essentially. All this has happened before, and all of this will happen again. So they set up and they pray to him, and he answers, which is good times. But they are opposed somewhat by the cult of Ulrich, who is the god of W's. He is the god of winter, war, and wolves. Any other witches, wenches, workbenches? He does it all. So yeah, but they both it's the leadership of both the cult of Sigmar and the cult of Ulrich that cast their votes on the new emperor.
it should be worth to mention that, you know, I guess you could say that the Empire is actually a pagan society. There are so many gods. There's Sigmar, Ulrich, Mor, Renault, Shalia. Man, there's a lot of cults in the Empire. However, Sigmar is recognized by everyone as the main deity, and if you don't worship Sigmar in some way, shape, or form, you can just get out.
Yeah.
If you don't like Sigmar, you can just get out.
Fair enough. So, is Sigmar the champion of light, though? Here's the question: is he Stannis Baratheon, as or whatever his name is, reborn? It is a well-known theory that the champion of light rises to fight the chaos when they unite and come forth with an Archaon. When one of their main leaders kind of unites all the tribes together and comes down, and someone just becomes epic just to keep the balance up, essentially. So people think that Sigmar and Magnus the Pious, and even in 2522 Imperial calendar, Fulton of Lockenbad, who fought the Archaon then, they think they all might be the champion of light, and they think they all might be Sigmar himself. When Fulton was born, when he came to the fore, there was a twin-tailed comet in the sky. He has a twin-tailed comet birthmark, and he looks and fights, and it is just very much like Sigmar. Or he just looks like him.
Mere coincidence,
Mere coincidence? Well,
you know, it's like, oh, this is the birthing of Sigmar. Well, it's not like he was born under a twin-tailed comet. Actually, he was. Well, it's not like he has a birthmark of a twin-tailed comet on his butt cheek. Actually, he does.
Yep.
It's not like he looks like Sigmar, teenager. Mere coincidences.
And he was assassinated, but possibly assassinated. There was blood, but body never found. So again, maybe Fulton went off to the Misty Mountains.
I have a theory on that. I actually have a legit theory on it.
Okie dokie. Brace yourselves. Tin hats on. Here we go.
Alright, so if I remember my timeline correctly, it was during the Storm of Chaos, and I believe Karl Franz was still the Emperor at the time.
I believe so. I'm not entirely.
Yeah, I believe what happened is he got wounded. He wandered off, and you know his body fell, and you know Karl Franz with his griffin flew off, and they found his body. And then Kurt Hellborg came along, and you know they said, "Oh damn, I guess he was mortal after all." Well, we can't say it to we can't tell people that he was just a dude. You know, so they both agreed that they would lie to the people just to give them hope and say, yes, he was Sigmar and he's returned to where he needs to go now that his time is up. Now that we've won.
Okay, so that's Fox's theory, or my theory is he just ran off to the mountains again. He's like, I just came back to hell quickly, and then ran away.
I'm a dwarf! I'm a dwarf! He gets naked. I'm a dwarf!
So yes, but speaking of dwarves, unless there's anything else you want to say about Sigmar himself.
No, Sigmar is a pretty nice chap.
Good on him, yes. And he looks epic.
Good on him. Starting a nation of people.
Well done. So moving on to dwarves. We have got bits of dwarves here. We got a Slayer by Adrian Smith, and we got dude in full-on serious armor from the Warhammer Online artwork. So dwarves, they're an ancient and proud race, although not as ancient or as proud as elves, because you are a stuck-up bunch.
or lizard men, or
This is true. Well, no, I just meant they are very old, but not old as old.
I believe some dwarves are so old they actually remember Sigmar.
Awesome. That's old.
That's pretty old. That's like 500 years, something like that.
In DD. So they once ruled the whole World Edge Mountains as their empire, but they fell to Greenskins and Skaven, and also the epic War of Vengeance with the elves. That's the War of the Beard, yeah? That we mentioned before. So they're now isolated, and they're fighting Dissenti to remain alive, because people have just tried to wipe them out, and with some good old dwarven hardiness, and some help with the humans, they have managed to stay. So, so many live in the cities of men now, although you do have the Imperial Dwarves who still live in the Dwarven cities. And as we've mentioned before, they are bestest buddies with the Empire.
They're butt buddies, to put it politely.
Well, yeah, because of Sigmar and all that stuff, and they are masters of the Forge. So essentially, they are short, powerful, and squat chaps, highly resistant to magic and chaos, and outside runecrafting, which they are wonderfully amazing at. They don't really have any magic, but they are very resilient and resistant to it. So, in the time of the ancestor gods, there's the area of migration led by Grungi, Grimnar, and Valea. How's my dwarven?
I don't even know. Like, I look at some of the elven names, I'm like, I'm not even gonna try.
So we don't, generally with Lorekeepers, we have a bit of a disclaimer, like, I try and pronounce things, and if I pronounce it wrong, you're welcome to let me know in chat, and I will try and pronounce it better.
Or leave a comment on YouTube so we stop looking like fools.
Indeed. So basically, they moved north, colonising the World's End Mountains as far as Norska. But then, with the coming of chaos, according to the Book of Grudges, it rent the earth and sky and tore the very mountains apart, made the sky darken and glitter with the colour of magical winds, and Grungi warned them that chaos was coming and that they needed to burrow deep within the earth. They did that for a while, and essentially they did a good old Chaos Space Marine tactic of hiding under the table, and they came out to find demons everywhere and did their best to clean them up, essentially. Yep. And then they teamed up with the Empire for the Golden Age, when they basically they founded the Dwarven Empire, and they were on good terms with the Elves in an alliance against Chaos. Mm-hmm. So things were alright for a while with them. And we've got the War of Vengeance, we've got Elven, which basically, now it depends on your standpoint, okay, Elven treachery or Dwarven stubbornness, or a combination of the both?
Before it was kind of iffy on how this worked, but they actually pretty much come out and say in the High Elf book that it was actually all a plot by Malekith.
Oh, okay.
So it was the elves who struck first.
But it's not their fault. Essentially, it's their fault, but it's not their fault. It's Malekith's fault.
Malekith was the emissary to the dwarves, and then he attacked a bunch of dwarves, and then he cut off their beards, and he said their beards, it's like, this is Thorin's beard, fuck you. And then they're like, what? How dare you? And then they go to war, and then so from the High Elves' perspective, it was just the dwarves just started killing elves for no reason. But from the dwarves' perspective, it was the elves who were actually dark elves before there were dark elves were killing dwarves. So
okay, yeah, fair enough. So
in theory, the elves struck first.
The elves struck first, which led so they went to that epic war, which devastated both races. But then the dwarves did manage to keep their claim of the old world, as we showed, and the elves went to Ulthian. So the time of Worms happened, which is an age of darkness, where lots of volcanic activity shattered their empire, lots of migration of greenskins, who decided they wanted to get involved and try and kill the good old stunties, because we know how much orcs love stunties, leading to the Goblin Wars and the age of unrelenting struggle. Then they reconquested, trying to build themselves back up, and they had the dwarves with lots of wars with men against chaos and stuff. So that was, essentially they have just been fighting and fighting and fighting and trying to live.
Pretty much. But the way the dwarven military works, it's you can kind of understand that they kind of like fighting, because essentially the dwarves actually don't have an army. Basically, what happens is, well, they do have an army. They do have professional soldiers. They got the Hammerers, who are the bodyguards of the Thanes and the King. They have the Ironbreakers, who protect the passes and the tunnels and stuff like that. But essentially, what happens is, they work in guilds and clans and stuff like that. And basically, you'll be at the mining tavern or whatever. Dwarf messenger goes up and be like, we're at war, and the dwarf miners are like, alright lads, let's go fight. They've slung their mining picks over, and that's how you make dwarven units. They're literally just drunk dudes in the tavern who form units and go to fight.
Oh dear, something's just happened there. Okay.
Skype's just
being naughty.
Yeah,
So we'll just So, unless there's anything you particularly want to get into about the dwarves, we'll move on to orcs and goblins, because we're kind of doing a big overview of a lot of things today.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to cover with fantasy. I mean, unless you want me to talk about how they fight on the table and stuff like that.
Well, I was thinking we'd have a full-on dwarf episode at some point with you and Brett or something. That'd be quite cool. So orcs. Now, again, we're going to get into some serious possible debate here. There's possibly unknown how they turned up and what their origin is. Now there are theories that they were mistakenly introduced spores from Old One spaceships, if you hold with the Old One spaceship type stuff. Or they were just spores that grew and flew through space and landed on the planet and started to grow. Essentially, they are fungusy people. They are more fun dementors.
Yes, they're basically they're fungus. They're asexual fungus.
That sounds a lot more. That sounds a lot more fun than it actually is.
I know. You know what's also weird? Go to the art. Go to the art real quick. I'm gonna do something that will blow your mind. None of those goblins have nipples.
Yes, they wouldn't have nipples or belly buttons. In fact,
no, they wouldn't have belly buttons. Why would they have belly buttons?
Yeah. So yeah, they are mouldy chaps from space. So there you go. Essentially, the greenskins are a bunch of varying species that are part of the same genus, if it would be essentially. So you got the orcs. These are the tribal orcs and standard orcs. They have crude weapons and armor, and they were taught how to fashion these weapons and armor by the Chaos Dwarves, which is always good times. Then you've got the savage orcs who live in the forests and jungles in the deep south. So this is my point. If the savage orcs and orcs and things they're living in the jungles and in the south, why do they sound Cockney? Shouldn't they sound like they're from Bonton or something? Hey, we're just going to release some squigs over here. Is that fine with you? Like, rather than right and all during alright, geezer.
Well, you know what, Seb? If I didn't have nipples, I'd probably have a Cockney accent as well.
Let's be
honest. Let's just speak reason here.
Yeah, no, I think you solved the mystery there. People without nipples automatically just default to a Cockney accent.
Yeah, that's. I assume soccer hooligans have no nipples.
Come and have a go if you think you got nipples. Right, moving on. You've also got black orcs, who are much more rare in the old world, but you find them more prevalent in the Darklands. They are stronger, cleverer, betterer, and rarer.
Let me explain, because I believe this is how it works. I don't know if it's changed in the current books, but I do believe orcs have a adrenaline-based metabolism, which means that basically they start, they're formed into orcs. They go, orc one, orc Zog is gonna fight, orc, Dur or something like that. So they fight, Dur beats Zog. Dur becomes slightly bigger, and basically what happens is they keep fighting and they keep winning. They keep growing bigger and bigger and bigger until they actually, then they eventually become black orcs, which means that their skin gets darker. They're not black, keep in mind. They're just kind of like, they stay that Caliban green or whatever. But they're darker skin because their skin is just so thick and leathery that it just loses that really nice, mucus green that we all adore so much.
Something's happened with your screen, so I can't just go onto your face. Good old technical problems. But yeah, because they just orcs keep fighting and they just get bigger. Essentially, this pretty much.
I don't know if that works in 40k, but that actually, that's the main reason that they fight, is because they want to become more powerful.
Yeah, and when you're tiny, you either get eaten, killed, or get bigger. Essentially, you either kill or get yourself going. Like all those fish games where you eat a small fish and you eat a bigger fish.
It's natural selection. They're the perfect race. Perfect. They don't have nipples, so they don't randomly lactate in battle. Like that happens so.
Indeed.
You're about to deliver the final blow, and you're like, "Oh shit, I lactate," and then you miss, and then they stab you in the face.
Yes. Yes, yes. So that's orcs. Let's talk about goblins. So there are many, many different types of goblins. You've got your forest goblins, you've got your night goblins that live underground. Forest goblins, this may blow your mind, but they live in forests. You've got nobblers, which is a great name, who are ruled by the ogres rather than the orcs. And then, so they are greenskins, but they're not really within the greenskin army system, and they're rather content with their lot, throwing in with the ogres. You've got hobgoblins, who are the nomadic people of the Darklands, and snotlings, who are the most common tiny little goblin, the basic starter set of a goblin, and they're used as pets and snacks, unless they kill and get bigger, essentially.
Yep.
They have a general savage tribal society, and the most kind of exciting and mental thing that I think about them is their wah magic. It's just awesome. It doesn't come from the winds of magic. It comes from themselves. It's channeled by a shaman, and its potency increases as the greenskins themselves get excited, which can lead to, if they do get too excited and bloodthirsty, a shaman can actually explode.
Yes. Hey boss, Sigmar's head's exploding again.
Like, so could you read, like, how?
Alright. My favorite spell in all of Warhammer Fantasy, it's called the Foot of Gork. Or is it the Foot of Mork? Anyways, I pulled an orc there, I didn't even mean to. But essentially, I'm assuming all here we've watched Monty Python. Have you ever seen I think it's actually in their theme song or whatever, when the giant foot just comes down and smushes someone?
Yeah.
That's it. That's the Foot of Gork. That's the spell. A giant green foot comes down and just makes the farting noise and everything.
But why is there magic inside them? They're just fungusy, like, they're fungusy people. But so do we know they're just magical people, essentially?
You know what? I think it's all going back to the nipple theory and the belly button theory. They need some way to lactate passes through the wall.
You heard it here first.
I have no idea.
Oh,
that's magic mushroom. That actually could be a thing.
Roundings has blown my mind. Orcs are magic mushrooms. That's just a wonderful thing.
Well, clearly, since they believe their magic works, it does. Yeah, kind of. I like that theory. I like that combined with no nipples.
Well, that's the thing. That's why things work in 40k, isn't it? Essentially, they have this intrinsic magic to them, and anything they believe in enough just happens. So I know, just hopping to 40k for a moment, really sorry, but like that's why red goes faster and stuff like that, essentially. Yeah. And if they ever try to go stealth, be scared, because they will become invisible. Essentially.
Yeah, if I cover my eyes, if I can't see you, you can't see me.
Oh yeah, essentially. And they also, the orcs and goblins also employ trolls and giants for extra big fun times in war. We're coming up to 47 minutes. We've just got Coming of Chaos, just to give a quick overview. You want to fit that in before we finish?
Yeah, let's do that.
Give it a quickly blap through that. So obviously we got the gods here. So the Coming of Chaos. The realm of chaos is the warp. It's the endless sea of energy inhabited by the gods and their demons. And in the old world, chaos entered through the warp gates of the old ones as they collapsed. It basically flooded in epically. Some solidified into warpstone, which the Skaven love, which is literally solid chaos. And it also rained as dust, warping many species and just saturating and getting stuck in the world, essentially, and most prevalent and saturated in the Chaos Waste, the Northern Pole area, which it is so mixed and mashed with chaos that it is essentially exists within two realms at the same time. Like it wavers crazy times, and it also expands and contracts just like the realms of chaos do within themselves. So and this all happened basically due to lots of it basically gets everyone crazy and affects them, mutates them, gets involved far more indiscriminately, as you were saying, than in 40k, which is interesting. Like you could just be blessed, as it were, without wanting to be. It kind of happens.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. And again, one more thing I should mention about chaos and how it's so much more badass in fantasy is chaos is a way of life for some people. people. It's not just a whisper that comes up and all of a sudden you're corrupted. You know, it's these people worship it from the get-go. You know, there are tribes dedicated to Khorne. You know, in fact, I believe Sigvald, who was the champion, you know, who's the champion next to Morathi of Slaanesh, was born in a Khorne tribe. Because Slaanesh is like, fuck you. Have a baby. Have a beautiful baby.
So just have this, like, would be Slaanesh champion born in a Khorne cult. That sounds like a fun time. But a good way to get him trained, I suppose.
Yeah, I actually totally forget. I think they actually kept him. They kept him alive, and then he was like good at like fighting with swords when he was like 7. He like killed his dad.
Good start.
Something like that.
Good start. So we got the Pantheon. You've got Tzeentch, Khorne, Nurgle, and Slaanesh as the main Pantheon. We all know Tzeentch is the god of magic and change and all that stuff. Khorne is the god of war and being generally angry and a bit of a dick. Nurgle is the god of joy and mould and pestilence. And Slaanesh, contrary to popular belief, and I know this is a very important thing to you, is not just the god of sex. It's the god of excess and just stimulus,
pleasure.
And pleasure, yes. Pleasure in all its forms.
I mean, we still need to play this, but Chaos in the old world, I really like how that game works out because it really shows how the Chaos would destroy the Empire from the inside out. You know, Slaanesh corrupts nobility. You know, Tzeentch, you know, harvests Warpstone into weapons. You know, Khorne just walks in and just starts slaughtering everyone. Nurgle infects the common population. You know, I really like how that works. So yeah, again, you know, Slaanesh picks his battles probably a bit more wisely.
Well, he is still the weakest and sort of the newest, even in the old world. Like he wasn't birthed by the Elder in the old world. Like he is there, but he is still the weaker younger brother of the rest of them.
Definitely.
So yes, in Chaos you've got, so we've mentioned the gods. There's also other gods. You've just to mention a few. You've got Kakek, the goblin god of blood. You've got Artagu, the god of beasts. Be'lakor, who was once a champion, ripped for power, and tried to be a god. Now just generally running around being a bit of a nuisance. You've got Hashut, father of darkness, worshipped by the Chaos Dwarves. We're going to get into a debate about the Horned Rat a bit later. But we got
that's for another episode, and you know we got Kagan, and then there was something else I totally thought of, and it could be someone else, but I can't remember who it was. But anyways,
you got Manal, the renegade god, who's actually the enemy and working against the rest of the gods. Nekoho, who is the doubter, who is possibly my favourite god. Only Warhammer could have this. Only something as awesome as this could exist within Hammer. Nekoho, the doubter, god of atheists and agnostics. Just let that settle in for a minute. Manal might not be in the current fantasy lore, but again, canon and canon do not exist. Anything and nothing is canon.
We're just telling you.
We're just telling you, things that can exist, and there are many more gods and things. So essentially, just the chaos groups. You've got the gods there. We've got in love with Adrian Smith stuff. You've got Chaos Warriors there, looking lovely in the northern chaps that they are. So if they're northern, I know they're Norse, so they should probably sound more like Vikings. But I know that we're coming from north, bringing chaos with us. Obviously, we've got the beasts and demons of chaos, the tainted and mutated beast people, and the actual demons, the shards of the gods themselves.
Yep, I should actually mention with their current rulebook, they no longer favor the 4 major gods of chaos.
They no longer favor them.
No.
Well, the beasts.
They don't actually worship Khorne, Nurgle, Slaanesh, and Tzeentch anymore. They're just kind of doing their own thing.
Oh yeah, is it? What would be Atago, god of beasts? They were worshipping themselves.
Something like that.
Because the thing is, the big 4 that we had are the big 4 chaos gods, but essentially all the gods of chaotic and mental stuff are the chaos gods. They're not necessarily the big guys.
You know, and we've talked about this with Skaven. I think there's a lot more with chaos going on than just the 4 major gods. There is so much, chaos is so much more vast in fantasy than it is in 40k. You know, in 40k, it's quite a simple thing. You know, there's 4 guys. They corrupted, you know, X amount of legions, and that's the gist of it. That's it. Although
they may have their own adventures with the tower and the Tyranids and all that sort of stuff. But just we're getting nearly an hour now. Let's just try last couple of pictures, and we'll be seeing ourselves home. So yeah, so we've got Chaos Dwarves, who obviously are believing in Hashut, as I mentioned before.
I love that old artwork.
I do love that. I had to put that up because I just love how old and ridiculous that is.
Like, I'm gonna cut you so deep, you're gonna wish I didn't cut you up so much. I'm serious.
It's serrated at the edge, which is always lovely. And obviously, you've got the a plague monk of Clan Pestilence of Skaven. The Skaven aren't necessarily worshipping the great gods; they worship the horned rat. But it's very well arguable that he could be an aspect of Nurgle in the way that Cain is an aspect of Khorne. But that is a debate for other time because we are running out of time. So I think we'll kind of start wrapping up there. Thank you ever so much for joining me today with this. I would love to have you back for some High Elves and other fantasy stuff at some point.
No, we gotta finish up the general.
Okay, yeah. Oh, sorry. Well, yes, there's many races and things we haven't even got into yet. So what would you, next time we have you, well, whenever we can get that booked in, what would you want to talk about?
Let's definitely do Chaos. That's something that definitely needs to be a thing. Then, you know, possibly just do a bit more of an overview of just everyone else. But I think Chaos is definitely worth its own mention in its own show. And I'm not even talking about the 4 gods, like
just the forces of chaos, the renegade stuff, naughty people essentially.
Naughty people trying to destroy, you know, Sigmar's realm.
Essentially, so just to give people an idea, because like people don't seem to realise that we have Lorekeepers every week. I know some people tune in to certain shows. So what we've got coming up next week will be 40k, looking at Necrons. Brett will be back with me for that, which will be nice. We may even have Toxic with us. Then we'll be getting into RPG the following week with Corruption Points, looking at the Dark Sun setting, which is all very exciting. And then the week after that, we're back to Magic, looking at the Planes and Ravinca and all the guilds and that good stuff with Shonography. So, as ever, no, you're back, you're here doing a show, you can do it for us today. Can you give us the spiel?
Alright, Next Troop is a non-profit organization. However, if you would like to donate to us, we have a button on our Tumblr, and you can donate $1, $2, $5, $10, whatever you feel like. Thank you so much to anyone who has donated. I know there's one person in the room who has donated a very generous amount to us, but as always, we'll provide the shows for free on a weekly basis. What do we have planned? Anything planned?
We got the Hammer on Saturday, 3 p.m. UK time, so that's what, that 10 a.m. Eastern time. And then Table Talks on Monday. Hopefully there's been lots of technical issues and unfortunately there wasn't an episode last week, so this week. So hopefully Table Talks coming back with a vengeance, that'd be great. I'm personally working with Erebus and Salatossa, recording the Epistles of Lorgar, which are a lot of fun, and I'm going to be doing a recording of Ramblings of Ian's 13th, his Space Wolf story, hopefully at some point this week. So I've been wandering around my house screaming, and I will do it in the most English accent, because I'm not giving anyone a little savour of what it will be. But yeah, just randomly walking around my house screaming Fenrica. I'm not going to try and put an accent today. So
that's awesome.
Awesome
That's
stuff.
Awesome.
You should probably bring it to a close there.
I think.
What have you been doing?
What have I been doing? I've been painting and stuff. I've been taking a bit of break, but I'm going to be coming back. No After Dark this week. I know it's been 2 weeks, but we're doing it next week on Friday. We're going to have Chris Collins come back, hopefully from Full Metal Nerdcast.
Awesome.
Because that was probably one of the most fun shows I've ever done. Was with him and Toxic.
Awesome.
I think that was the first time I cried from laughing during a stream.
Awesome.
Seb, I'd love to have you on After Dark.
I would love to be on After Dark. It's difficult being 6 o'clock in the morning for me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's going to be 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh.
You're going to have to wake up at 5 o'clock.
We will organise at some point, and I will be on an After Dark. Maybe we should do like a slightly evening Dice Troop after PM.
Yes, we're good. So
awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for Lorekeepers. We will be back every week and all that good stuff, and we will catch you soon. Taddy bye.
Taddy bye.